Welcome everybody to the latest technical steering committee for the baseline protocol. It's good to see you all here. We've got, I think we got a quorum. And I'm going to bring up, which I should have done before we started, I'm going to bring up the GitHub baseline roadmap. Bring up ZenHub and into logins, because this machine is not as well known. Everybody have a good 2 weeks?
Yeah, been pretty good.
It's gonna be a good day, right? Looks like, is everybody going to the ETH Atlanta thing later on today?
Yes, will be just a smooth transition from TSC to ETH Atlanta. Just another Zoom window, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, and for that reason, we will jump right to that. So we will not go overtime at all today, though we should never go overtime. Right. So here we are, organizational issues. Those baseline roadmap, and there it is. Is everybody, so I'll go through, has everybody gone or seen at this point the agenda epics that we put up? If not, I will share screen and and I have to open system preferences for Zoom to allow. Oh boy, there we go. All right. There. Everybody can see?
Yeah.
All right, good. So baseline, we have 3 new high-level epics: event targets, press releases, and kind of journalists who to talk to, and the TSC and SSC regular meeting agendas. And in here we have all, a short list. I knocked this down somewhat, but we'll keep more than a month or 2 of these ahead of time. But here are all the minutes. So for June 18th, which is today, TSC agenda and minutes. And so because we haven't really used this before, there's no real agenda in this one. You might see the last one from the SSC was quite extensive and had, and then we use minutes. So anytime you want to add something to the agenda here, go in and write a comment, and that's where it'll go. And then this is where all the minutes and materials from the meeting will go after we compile them. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
All right. And apologies, I'm sort of on pseudo holiday here, so I did not achieve the objective of getting the agenda for this moved over from the calendar entry, but I think it's always the same. So first order of a business is checking on are there any new maintainers that have, or do the maintainers have any issues that the TSC needs to resolve or address? Maintainers.
Nope.
Okay, that's good. But you did add some maintainers in the last couple of weeks, right? That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, but without incident, so that's awesome. Who are the 2 maintainers that were added? Should go back and look. I think George was added, right?
Yeah, George was added some time ago, and let me just get that name.
So I think the other one was Tomas from Netherminds.
Tomas.
That's correct, Tomas. Yep, that's terrific. All right. So maintainers are moving along. The next thing is to look at issues that or epics that have closed in this period or that are closing, to determine if there were any other, to kind of celebrate those and to put them to bed, and to look at any dependencies or interconnectedness that we need to work on for those. So here we are on the epics. Here's the roadmap, and this worked really well in the SSC meeting last time. And so engineering priorities, protocol abstraction and generalization is nearing its completion in the next week or two. Can we confirm on that? I don't think we have Kyle on today. Any questions or concerns about this issue? Let me just do a quick head count. How many actual TSC members do we have on today? This is a little bit odd day because we don't have, this isn't our normal time frame. So we have Jack, we have Stefan, we have Sam, we have Brian, we have Eric, and myself. That's 6.
That is 6.
So we okay, the rules say 6 or better. So we're good there. And I think we'll give anybody that isn't attending today a pass, given that we did change up the meeting time.
Yeah.
I think the rules say you're subject to losing your seat after what, 3 consecutive misses. But so far we haven't had to worry about that rule at all. But I think we'll, unless there's a disagreement, let's say that today does not count, because we had to switch it for the event today. But we do have enough people to rule on anything that needs to be discussed. So the protocol abstraction, let's come back to that in a minute. Let's just make sure that there are other issues, any other issues that we want to discuss. Eric, you might want to talk about security. That has become a really interesting topic in the last 2 weeks. A lot of security people wanting to jump on and get involved. So that's something we can discuss.
Yeah, I certainly agree. So we'll need to organize around that a little bit more. I'm not sure if you meant discuss right this second, but
No.
Okay, yeah, we'll discuss.
In an hour-long meeting that has to encompass the entirety of the project, all we really can do is touch on the top and shine flashlights on things, right, for later work.
Yeah, I agree. We will be having some breakout meetings on security. Absolutely.
Terrific. Let's suggest that on those, if you can publicize when those will be, and on the general channel at least, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll take an action item there. I'll try to be better about that.
That's awesome. I know that Stephen is also working on that as well. How's the new gig, by the way, over at the new place?
Very good, very good. That's another breakout session.
That, by the way.
Yeah, that's another breakout session.
All right. So moving to specifications and functional and non-functional requirements, as you can see, we are now with the completion nearing of the init core merge. The next thing that will open up the ability to start getting serious about standard specifications writing. And one person who's not on this call has stepped up to help lead that and I will also apply my focus to that, to the specification work as we go forward. Does anyone else, either themselves or someone they know, want to put their names on standards and specifications writing? Don't everybody step forward at once. Yeah, it's a sloggy, hard piece of work, and I think we have the people that are interested in doing it ready. So we will proceed with that now, and this we will do two things in this. One is write something that I think Daniel called the cookbook for integrating baseline pattern into things. And that will be just a cookbook. And that will be then sort of as it matures, it will become more specifications that we standardize and vote on. Something that I'd like to put on the record here, so that, you know, on the recording and for the team members that are not here today, something you may not be aware of is the level of the extent to which OASIS supports serious standards work. So as we get to the point where this work has specifications that are worthy of standardization, the OASIS standards process is extensive, and lots of venerable things have been put forward as OASIS standards, W3C, IEEE, and I think we'll do a session just on educating on that with the OASIS head of that work going forward. So that's something we should be thinking about going forward, is that we have that resource available to us. Thoughts, comments?
Are they available to kind of help us get things going, or like what level of involvement can their workshops? Do they have anything they can provide? And this is something I'm sure they've done for other communities.
Yes, they have tools. They can provide assistance in terms of one-to-one assistance, in terms of advisement. They can do workshops, and they have formats. And then, of course, they have the process to make it an official OASIS standard.
Would it be possible
Yeah.
give us, like, to come into the TSC meeting and give us a primer on all of that? I mean, certainly new to me. It'd be great to have them help us through. Maybe other folks, it's new to them too, but maybe not.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you guys think? Should we try for next week, or 2 weeks from now, or yeah, why don't we just try for 2 weeks from now? Yes. Would that be a good time frame?
I'd be okay with that. I mean, maybe you can do. I don't really know what would be involved with if they have something to present. Half an hour or 20 minutes of.
Sure. Yeah, I agree as well, and I assume that will be a breakout meeting, John.
I'll tell you what. I'll go and check with them, and if they think that they can do it, an effective introduction within the framework or within the structure of the TSC meeting, we can do it there, or we can do a separate breakout, or tack it on the beginning, or maybe extend the TSC in one direction or the other. I think those are options. Let me find out how much time they'd like to fill up. But yeah,
Okay.
they've offered to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my guess is it would probably consume an entire TSC meeting to be meaningful. My guess is that will have to be a breakout meeting, separately scheduled.
Yeah, that's probably true. Although it'd be kind of nice to do it, tack it on the front or back of the TSC, so we don't have, have to go through the extensive. It's tricky getting everybody together, I can tell you.
Yeah, it is. We may I just don't think, knowing just a little bit, I mean, I know a fraction of what Oasis knows, but I think it will be difficult to fit that in a short period of time. And we'd probably run over TSC business that way.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm thinking like we could do it earlier, like an hour or two earlier than the meeting, or start it at the end of the meeting. Yeah, about it.
About it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, in my mindset, I was hoping for like a 20-minute, like level set explainer of like, okay, you want to do a standard. Here's how long it takes. Here's the kind of steps. Here are the people you need to have involved. Here's kind of how it goes. Here's what you need to think about. Here's some templates to look at. A quick 30,000 foot view of the process and overall, just so everyone's on the same page of how long it's going to take, how much effort is going to be involved, and what we need to do to kind of get started. Not to like actually help us write it. I think for that, we might need a more in-depth breakout session. I mean, I don't even want to think we should be discussing in this meeting or this part of the meeting, like what the specifications are. I just want to know how it works, what we need to do.
Yep, that's. I think that now that we have something that even begins to look like something that's been abstracted and generalized to at least one step, that seems like a really good point to start doing that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, great. So 2 weeks from now, we will endeavor to get the team to do that. They're really quite good. And if you go and just look up Oasis standards, there's a lot of. Okay, so that's standards. I'll close that box and we'll move on. By the way, I'm at our mountain place with which is very small, and you may hear lots of noise behind me. I suppose in COVID land, that's a normal thing nowadays. Okay, so we have now, we're on to security. While we discuss security, we've got standards, guidelines, security dev tools, and architecture. And I think, Eric, if you can relay this to the other guys as well, it would be, it would be terrific if we can start to elaborate this stuff. We have these 3 placeholders, but we should get these surfaced.
Yeah, before the next meeting, I'll kick up the documentation a little bit here. I haven't had a chance to structure that any better than we did one meeting ago, 2 meetings ago. But yeah, I'll do that. I'll get some specification in there before next meeting.
Oh, you can be forgiven. I mean, you've got a lot on your plate right now. I'm grateful that you're here.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Cool.
So super. So that's good. I think again, I don't think this component is. I think it will start gating things as we get towards the end of the summer, because and I see Didier from Consensus is on, and welcome Didier.
Hi everyone.
There's a lot of we don't really have a introduce everybody segment on this, given it's a short meeting. We should have probably done that for guests, and I'm sorry I didn't do that for you. So Didier is here. I see Jack and Drew. Does anyone else like to, now that I'm right in the middle of the meeting, does anybody like to introduce themselves?
Hey, I'm Arno. I'm CEO at Aztec, and this is my first TSC.
Oh, hey, good to see you.
And Didier, I work in Consensus Codify. And I connected, I think, once before, but we can say it's my first one as well.
Anyone else? Andrew? Okay, all right, so yeah, I think that as we get towards the end of the summer and into the big tentpole project around invoice tokenization, that's when it gets real, right? Because we're dealing with assets and security, having some thinking done about security and how we implement will be important at that time frame. So,
yeah, agreed.
Yep. In fact, so I'll put it in the minutes, and I'll do a check middle of the 2-week session on the security matter to see if we can elaborate something and put it into the dependency path, right? So we can say, okay, this needs to be done before we do complete final work on the big project. Cool.
Gotcha.
Tools. We still, yeah, so high level value deck. So tools still hasn't been elaborated a lot. And I think that's natural again, as right now we seem to be in demo, build lots of demos territory. And there's a ton of them. Just the ones I know about there's a ton of them. And so I think tools is sort of like security, it's got a certain time frame. Does anybody have any reporting to do or thoughts on tools?
Yeah, just a short notice from our side. We developed some kind of transaction explorer for local development environments. So for all those who are just running the stack locally or building demos, it's something comparable like you would use on the public chain or on Robston with Etherscan, but you can fire it up on your local machine to connect to, say, Ganache and have an Etherscan-like experience. We had some things to clarify internally at Unipride that we are allowed to put this completely under open source, and we'll do so next week. But this would be one of the examples where actually there is work done and we will just put it in the repo. And I don't know if it's then useful to put it still in the roadmap, like in retrospective. So after it's published for the sake of completion, or if we just should work on the repo. So I would like to get your advice on that, how it's done best.
Brian, you might have something to say about that.
Yeah, Bill, that's great. It's very exciting. So, and I definitely want to figure out the best way to share all of that and open source. So we've had this discussion before, I think, in the maintainers group. And if I recall, where we landed was to basically set up a separate repo for, I mean, if you want, you're welcome to help try to merge your work into the main repo, because we don't have any restrictions about, pulling in components or things that help illustrate the protocol and process and things. But we found that other companies find it just helpful to set up their own public repo, and then don't have to worry about the ECLA and
yeah, and my question was also towards if somebody just uses the baseline main roadmap to see what's going on, then I think it would also be good to put in items there after they are finished, because we just did not put them in before, but now it's ready. We put it in whatever repo so everybody can use it. And I'm asking if I should then still add another project for it or another epic and just set it closed because it's already done. But for all those who would call the baseline, view the baseline roadmap first to see how the work around the protocol evolves, they should be able to find at least a small story in here so that they know that this thing exists. I don't know if everybody starts with the actual GitHub repo and dive through branches and code. So I think the roadmap is also a great tool to document what has been done in terms of tools or POCs or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, please do that, and then also do a PR against the docs.
Yeah, of course.
To add it as a secondary project. I don't know if we have a carved out for that yet, so feel free to make that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, don't do it against the docs right now, because Brian and I are still working on fixing the docs. So your PR will never see the light of day.
Yeah, it's not a matter of hours, rather of days. But I wanted to double check that it's okay to put items in the roadmap that are already finished once they are put in the roadmap. But yes, for documentation reason, I think it's good. And that was actually the second thing I want to bring up. It's also the same issue within POCs and demos. So for example, in the office hours yesterday, I announced that the Fraunhofer wants to do a POC with us together. And this is great. And this is also great because they agreed on putting it into the roadmap. So we are now working on the final wording of the project description and perhaps some explaining blocks around it. So for all those who are interested, can dive a little bit more into details. But there are also a lot of requests from clients that perhaps do not want to be so publicly exposed on setting deadlines, because they also put their team in and they're juggling with resources, and they would perhaps be more comfortable to just announce the finished demo once it's up and running. But still, the same example, I think it would be valuable if we still put them on the roadmap after they're released, so we have a complete picture of everything that has been built.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think release is fine. I mean, we need to be, you know, cognizant of different companies' culture and comfort level with participating in open source projects. So, yeah, I think your approach sounds fine. Doing it after the fact is just as fine as doing it ahead of the fact and tracking it. I kind of like the idea of a roadmap becoming not only stuff that we can proactively add, but then also a place where we can reactively add things that are done and have it become a living history of the project. That's kind of a good idea, I think.
Yeah, and it's also good to show progress towards all those who find out about the baseline initiative perhaps later, say in 2 or 3 months from now, and everything that they can see. I mean, we have a lot of traction and there's a lot of things going on and many different entities and individuals contributing. So I think this should all be seen at one place, and it's just the more impressive it is that how many projects are built around baseline, then the more likely new participants will be happy to join.
Yeah, you touched on a real good point there too. That's something that you know, John and I have been having discussions about, is how to better surface the activity of the project. And you know, using the GitHub stats on the repo is just not sufficient. And unfortunately, GitHub doesn't really provide you ways to expose those in a way that is customizable at all. It's actually really surprising how limited it is. So yeah, maybe, you know, if anyone has ideas or good examples of projects that can kind of aggregate, or whether it's like a web view or some published report or something, feel free to please share with the group here, because we're still in the ideation process of how to best communicate that when someone lands on the website, and understand, you know, what's going on in the project, the activity level, the community. So I think it all helps build momentum around the project.
Sounds good. I'll try to codify that in the minutes. And it sounds, when we were doing one of the previous demos, the question came up, you know, should that demo be in its own repo or in the you know, the main /baseline repo? And at that time we said, let's put it in a folder called demos or examples, and let's put all the demos in there so that we don't have repo expansion. And that we also, you know, because these were fairly close to, you know, illustrating the actual protocol, you know, so we don't have to worry about Oasis managing ECLAs across a bunch of different repos. And I think, wouldn't you say that that's still, for demos at least, and for things that are core, we stick with one repo?
Well,
but
yeah, I think there's some nuance to that. I think it's going to depend. You know, something like the Microsoft Dynamics SAP demo, like that, has a lot of different moving parts and different technology that you can't, for legal reasons, even put in our repo or put under an ECLA. So I would say if the demo, whatever that ends up being, is a self-contained standalone, like if it's very close to the Radish demo, like I've been working on kind of a re-envisioning of the Radish demo to figure out like how to make it a little simplified and with a different front end, but essentially the same back end. Like that I will put in the repo, because it is the same code, the same stack, the same services, but slightly different approach to explaining the process. If there are similar things that are like standalone projects that are same code base, more or less, running the same services, then yeah, I think that same repo makes sense. But if it's a more complex demo, like the Google Sheets kind of thing, or there's a lot of different moving pieces and different technologies that need to be, you know, brought up to have it work. I think that could be okay. I kind of want a balance of like, you know, some demos that are, you know, come out of the box that are canned and ready to go, and some that are more sprawling and interconnected, because that's kind of the nature of the systems that we're proposing we support inside Baseline. So I feel like we just need to get a few of these outside repos up, and then the demos, and then have proper linking from the repo and the docs to those demos, and figure out ways to surface them through videos and YouTube, and kind of also, you know, connect all the dots here. So I think it's okay to have some outside. But so for me, that's the dividing line. It's like if you're using the exact services that Radish demo uses, and it's just slightly different way, and you can plop it in, then put it in the main repo. But if it's a very complex thing with a lot of moving parts and other licensed products that, you know, you might not be able to put out on open source or under an ECLA, then, you know, do it whatever works best for your company and your situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think if we take a look at the landing page of the Baseline protocol right now, so for somebody who's checking on what Baseline is for the very first time, for the SAP D365 demo, we have a very good spot there, of course, but I think we all hope that there will be so many showcases that it will not be sufficient to just put them somewhere on the landing page because they just get lost. So perhaps something like an easier graphical format for showing what has been done so far. And even if demos overlap each other a little bit in terms of what tech stack they use or which use case they address, they still could be the very first entry point for a person to deal with Baseline protocol. So I think it's better to have different entry points into getting into the subject and make them as accessible as possible, at least in these first weeks and months that the protocol is established.
Yep, I totally agree. I think we're on the same page there. And with regard to the landing page, you know, having, you know, the Microsoft Dynamics demo, yeah, and then having too many, when we get to that, that'll be a good problem to have, and we'll be happy to.
Exactly.
That's,
yeah, I'll take an action to add the task, work with TJ or another volunteer on improving the website. And I think the law of three is good here. We've got 2 demos, and that second demo did not get onto the homepage, although it generated an enormous amount of interest. The Google one, and so I think, but the third demo is coming, and when it comes, that's probably the moment that we need to increase the level of the web page or the website. So it's pretty easy to do as well. They've got it rigged into the /website repo, and it's not hard to modify. So we'll take care of that.
Yeah, sheets one there. Let's see if we can do that by the end of the week.
Right on. I think the next demo is popping in a couple weeks, so we got a little bit of a reprieve. But I think before, yeah, definitely we want to have it set up for that. And I know TJ has some ideas about how to, you know, make that so it's not a chore every time we have to do it. Okay. So that's that. We did discuss POCs and demos a bit. There's quite a few of them. We really review a lot of these during the SSC meeting. Salesforce integration, Ian is popping now. There's a company that is behind that. Corporate identity system. There's a number of different efforts going on in there. PO to third to print manufacturing, I think that's the container, right, Stefan, for the Fraunhofer project?
Yes, I wasn't sure if it's only that or also the latest point in this list with the manufacturing demo, if they are somehow redundant or connected. I don't know. I think we will update them as soon.
Take an action. Yeah.
Okay. I think we will update them as soon as we agreed on the common wording on how to describe the actual case, and then also come up with the exact timeline and just update the roadmap accordingly.
Right on. York put in this one for Microsoft Teams as a supply chain component and for exception management. And it's still out in the future, so I'll circle back with York to see if they're going to put some resource on that. And if not, then we'll put that into the Icebox MuleSoft connector demo. By the way, that's very normal thing, right? There's lots of people, lots of different projects that kind of pop up, and then some will go quiescent and some will become big, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, but that's part of our job here, is to make sure that we keep it clean. Using oracles as a workflow logic with Chainlink, that is now on happening, and the Chainlink folks are rigging that up now. And then the manufacturing demo, which we just discussed. There are a number that were the COVID-19 hackathon demo did occur, and they did not win, but they did place in there, or they did compete in the hackathon. The SAP Dynamics Radish project obviously dropped and did very well. Baseline as a service is now, we're going to have to ask Kyle to update this, because it's really coming out here in the next couple of weeks as one of the things that will run after the after we launch the init core. What isn't being actioned right now is multi-party use case demo, and this one also, identity legal workflow. I think we need that to be updated, because that is actually happening. I think that's what we're calling the DocuSign demo. And then, yeah, so those are some of these I think we'll prune out of here, as these were ideas that various people had. And if I don't see action on them, I'll move to prune them. Okay, and then behind all of this is still a huge backlog of stuff that has not been put onto the main dashboard. That will always be a challenge, because there's just so many people doing so many different projects, and not everybody's educated on how to put it on the roadmap. So we'll keep on working on that. Anything else on projects and epics that we should be aware of or coordinating them? Or specifically, I'm sorry, POCs and demos. Okay. On the integrations side, we have DocuSign integration kit is happening, an Excel integration kit popping up, and then the gas service, which Brian and I and some other people are working on. Bill Gleim proposed a Hyperledger Avalon integration, and he reports that work is continuing on that. And the tokenization and asset management of invoices, that's the big one. Hey, Nate. Hey, Nate, can you hear us?
Yep.
Hey, it's good to see you.
You too. Sorry, I've been so many meetings.
Oh, we get it. Hey, this is actually a good moment. We were talking about demos and integrations. I know you guys have been cooking something up. There's a bunch of companies that are going through sort of by the book, getting involved. They have to go through their OSSC organizations but really big companies. So there's a lot of kind of dark matter here going on, where there's companies that are doing work that's not showing up here. And I'm not sure your stuff is showing up here for the same reasons, right? You've got some internal work going on, but is there anything that you need the TSC to know about in terms of dependencies or coordination, things that need to happen in order for your work to work?
I probably need to swap out myself or for Jason on our team, or at least add Jason to these because he's more in the weeds with it than I am.
Right on. Do you want to have Jason get into the maintainers team? Did I hear that before?
Possibly. I'll have to talk to him and.
The only reason we were talking about the maintainers group, and we're always trying to add folks to it. So you of course would be welcome to. I think Brian might be a good ringleader for that if he's interested. But no worries either way. Yeah. So you've got so log file. That's what you guys do. Do you want to say anything about the work at all?
Logs, metrics, tracing, and ledger data. So we're finding that most of our customers first want to be able to analyze the data on the ledger using something like Splunk Connect for Ethereum, where you get not only the transaction data, but you're able to decode the ABIs automatically and then correlate this with other data across your infrastructure. And then they say, oh, well, we don't need Prometheus and Grafana if this can all be done in the same platform. So then they extend to using it for monitoring their infrastructure and then their applications on top. And so that's when we get to the tracing level. When developers want to be debugging, the traces become very useful for them.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll take an action to circle back with you and see if we can surface anything up on that. And yeah, so going forward, it'd be good to know, especially if you're not aware, there's a big update coming with the init core push, which will happen. It's a branch, big branch, too big of a branch, but it's just, it's the way it has to happen sometimes. And that branch will be popping up in the next couple of weeks. So there'll be documentation, a bunch of other stuff, and your team should probably know about it so that they're not blindsided. All right, so I think that's the crawl through the dashboard. Can anybody identify anything that we missed, the glaringly? All right, well, we're right on time on that. A couple of PSAs, and then our agenda is spent, at least the one that I had. Number one is that we are now approaching the period of time where we have to get serious about elections. There's the TSC is an 11-member committee. The SSC has become really useful. Like, people should just articulate the SSC method and use it. Yes, that's my son screaming in the background, so we'll put him on the agenda in a minute. That is an unelected subcommittee, but it's got a lot of activity going on, and it's now, I think, over 50-60 people are in there, and I thought that the last meeting was really, really good. The TSC has a governance job, which is right now has been fairly quiet because we haven't had problems. We haven't had any problems on the maintainer team. We haven't had to resolve any disputes in terms of new maintainers joining or direction or anything like that. So it's been a fairly quiet part of the agenda. And what we've been mainly doing is reviewing and I think the appropriate role here is to coordinate. That is to make sure that stuff going on in one part of the community isn't blocked, gated, or going to have a problem as they collide. Like if a init core completely messes up something, say, that you're doing, it would be good on this team to highlight those things and see if we can avoid it when we can. So that would be the primary activity of the 11-member board or the 11-member TSC committee going forward. And we do elections in September, with September 30th being the final. So that's my PSA for that. I want to make sure everybody is aware. And on of the maintainers that are on the team here, we really are going to want to do a kind of a public service announcement and some education to make sure that people know that there's. Sorry, I'm a little distracted by trying to figure out if someone is falling off of a cliff or something. Yeah, there needs to be awareness that you can't get you only get a vote if you've merged something to master. So it might be something where we do a push to make sure that people that really are serious about doing stuff and are working in their own little branches, they push at least a spell check to master. Otherwise, they're not going to get a vote. Brian, Sam, Nate, do you have any thoughts on that stuff?
I agree that I feel like that's the bar we set, so we should stick to it. But it does make it more complicated now that we have multiple repos. So I think maybe we might need to tweak that language to be like any related baseline project. Like, what if someone builds a cool demo and they put in their own repo that's connected to baseline? That there's now some new applications that have evolved where. Well, or maybe we do want to stick to, you must do something to the main repo.
That's sort of the Oasis way, I guess. That was, we pulled that from the Oasis, and also Hyperledger does it that way as well. But you're right, it is getting, we do have more repos. Again, I think that it could be a spell check.
Yeah, I say let's I just put it in the back burner. It's like, oh, maybe we should revisit that wording, but not suggesting we make any change.
I do think Brian, Sam, and the maintainers and those who are going to dial in and watch this afterwards, Eric. I think we're going into a period where we're probably going to have to amp up a lot of outreach work for by the maintainers to encourage people to do that, grease the skids, help them through it, make sure that they get their ICLAs in, and so this might be a very active time for the maintainers team.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I did have one topic. This is unrelated to what we're talking about, but I want to park it. Just if there's a minute at the end, I just wanted to ask a question of the TSC.
This would be a good minute.
Oh, okay. So I guess the question is, I guess it is technical in nature, sort of the mechanics of it. I mean, how much does the TSC want to be involved in sort of changes to the website and changes to the documentation and structure of things? Is that you just want to be informed, or you want to be like TSC should be the accountable, reviewer of that, or is that more of an SSC? The context is I've been doing research, or I've installed analytics tools on the website, and that includes Google Analytics and then also Intercom, which is an interactive chat. And so I've been talking to people, running more or less ad hoc guerrilla, or not guerrilla, what's the word? Skunkworks help desk. Not even the right term either. Talking to folks from all over the world about baseline, which has been very exciting to hear all people interest in where they're coming from. And if you go to the documentation or the main site now, you'll see how it works. Is if you're on the site for more than 10 seconds, a little bubble pops up, and it asks you a question: is what brings you? What's your interest in the baseline protocol? And then people's first response has been pretty enlightening. So synthesizing that now. This has been an experiment. It's not something I'm paying for out of pocket. So it's an experiment I'm going to run probably for another week. So it's been about three and a half weeks now that it's been up. So I'm going to be taking this information, synthesizing it. So I want to share this information, one, with the group. This is a spreadsheet because you can't actually export the raw data without paying another $55 to Intercom, and I don't quite feel like doing that. Although I'm sure their service is great in that regards. But then potentially there'll be some redesigns to the website and things like that. So how involved should TSC be in that? And what, just as just sort of a, should I just continue to work in that regard and improve the website, work with TJ, of course, and, you know, move forward? That's the question, is like, how involved is the TSC, you know, in the website, in the documentation? I'm happy to keep you up to date of changes, or I'm happy to have you all be kind of final say in some parts of it.
I personally think that it's good to, at minimum, keep us in the loop with just a short update during meetings. And as far as us getting involved where you can tap people in, I think it'd be valuable. I think people who visit the baseline protocol repo do end up at the documentation and maybe even get there from the main website. So adding a little technical flair is not going to hurt at all.
Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think this is a, by the way, kudos, Brian, for taking the initiative on that. I don't think anybody's tried this before. I've not heard of it from any of the other teams. We review a lot of different projects on the PGB, and that's something I haven't seen before. So I think one of the things we can do is mention it to Jory as she comes back, and see where we can support it and where we can make it regular.
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, if we were to bucket this whole thing, it's sort of community building and, well, to use your term, greasing the skids of engagement. Yeah, that's it. The idea is to catch people, especially with the intercom part of it, is to catch people who are just passing through and are not quite going to commit to joining Slack or any of the other. We have a whole bunch of ways people can kind of hop into the community, but this is sort of to catch people. And there's a sort of a engagement funnel you can kind of carve out for that pathway, but this is to rethink of sort of from a product perspective and a user experience perspective, what the first touches of our community are like for folks and what questions they have and that. So I guess it is very much in the community building bucket. So yeah, it makes sense. We should talk to Oasis, and that's good advice.
All right, well, we'll take that action too. So a lot of actions this week, and it's great to see you all. Things are really moving forward. I'm quite excited. I mean, the TSC is supposed to be a small meeting. It's 11 members and some guests. SSC is growing quite a bit, and the number of companies and projects that are coming around. I think we've passed 500 actives. In fact, that's getting to be old information. I should go check it again. And yeah, Brian and Sam and Eric and folks, if we can get the maintainer team to go active on bringing more people in, I think we'll see the contributor list go way up. There's a project I'd like to maybe find some enterprising folks where so we have a big list of leaders, and people are quite interested in that list on the documentation site. And we will, what I'd like to be able to do is have the SSC list automatically populated based on whether or not you're on an epic, on the top level epic. So something that scraped the top level epic, told your, that's that user ID from GitHub, and if we have a table with your name and company name, and then somebody, the ability to go in and stipulate that you're okay with putting your name publicly on the list, then that might make things easier, because right now I'm doing a lot of list management. And also I want to make sure we play that by the book and that we don't put anybody on that list that doesn't want to be there. A lot of people involved that don't want their names officially out there on a list. So that's something to look at going forward.
Another aspect of, we've talked about this, and I've been thinking about that problem that you just described. One of the thing that, or angle of it, is like, how do we actually verify that person is who they say they are and are able to represent their company? Like, is that something that?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So you need to be able to stipulate that. So we've been doing that, but right now it's been done in emails, which means the database of proof that we have permission is in my email account.
Yeah. Okay, I see that point. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, we are now at the top of the hour, and this one we have to cut right at the edge. So, anything else? Anybody have 1 minute left? All right. Well, another great episode of Baseline Protocol TSC. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'll get those minutes written up. And as I said, those will be right there in that GitHub epic. Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Thanks.